Welcome to the Handed Down Kitchen, where we bring antique recipes out of the past and back into the kitchen. Today's recipe is for a dish that's been completely lost to time, Roman pie. Filled with rabbit, cheese and macaroni and served with a hot sauce, this pie was written of and served in restaurants between the late 19th century and mid-20th century before it fell out of fashion. This recipe is from our copy of the Manual of Modern Cookery, which was published in 1943, around the time when Roman pies vanished. This pie makes 6 to 8 servings, and to make it you'll need the following ingredients. For the meat filling, you'll need half a rabbit or fowl. We've got rabbit, which we're flavouring with some thyme, some salt and pepper to season with, half a large onion or 1 small onion, and we're also using a bit of olive oil. And for the rest of the pie, starting with the pastry, you'll need 2 ounces, that's 57 grams of lard, the same weight of margarine, half a pound, that's 227 grams of plain flour, some water, and an egg. And for the rest, you'll need 2.5 ounces, that's 71 grams of grated cheese, 1.5 ounces, that's 43 grams of macaroni, some salt and pepper to season, 1/4 pint, that's 142 millilitres of cream, and some fresh parsley to garnish with. You would also need to make a tomato sauce to serve it with, which we've given the instructions for on our website. The very first thing to do is to roast your meat with the onion, which we're going to slice up and cook beneath it in a roasting dish. Whichever meat you choose to use, you must cook it with onion, as both will be chopped up later to go into the pie. Now, our recipe says you can use fowl, such as chicken, duck or guineafowl. But the meat we're using is rabbit, which is what almost all of the recipes for Roman pie we've seen recommend using as a first choice. We bought a whole rabbit from our butcher, who jointed it for us. Half of it will be used here in this recipe, and the other half we made a casserole from the following day. Now you can roast it like this, but we're going to add a bit more flavour using ingredients we already had about the house. We put on some olive oil, added seasoning with flaky sea salt and black pepper, and topped it with some fresh thyme from the garden and a bit more oil. Then cook per your butcher's instructions. Ours went into a moderate oven to cook for half an hour. When it's ready, leave it on the side to cool down. And once it's cool enough to handle, remove the meat from the bone. If you're using rabbit, be careful, they have very sharp little bones. If, like us, you're going to make the 1940s tomato sauce to serve it with, keep the bones, fat and other bits from the carcass. You can boil them up to make the stock that goes into this sauce, although you will want some extra stock to hand, as half a rabbit won't make as much as you need. We topped ours up with some chicken stock using an OXO cube. And remember to save that cooked onion. Now chop up the meat and onion into dice. You can do all of this the night before you make the rest of your pie if you like. Just keep these covered in the fridge. Now we're going to make the pastry for our pie, and for this recipe it's short crust. Start by pouring your flour and salt into a basin, and then add the fats, the margarine and the lard. Rub in the fat until it comes together like breadcrumbs. And now, going a bit at a time, add cold water until it comes together and you can mould it into a ball. Recipes for Roman pie we've seen have suggested using different kinds of pastry. Puff pastry, pastry with macaroni baked into it. This one is for short crust pastry, which makes a really good, solid and transportable pie. Give your working area a good dusting of flour and turn out your pastry onto it. Cut off 1/3 of the pastry and set it aside. That'll be the top of the pie, which we'll roll out later. Now we're going to roll out the rest. The recipe doesn't say how thickly to roll it out, so we rolled ours out about 1/8 of an inch thick. Have a greased cake tin ready and lay the pastry you've rolled out into it so it covers the bottom and the sides. Gently press it into place and patch up any bits that need it. Don't worry about it looking messy, you just want it to be well patched and the pastry coming over the top of the tin. Now we're going to prepare the rest of the filling. First, cook the macaroni. We're using a type of macaroni that's already been cut into small rings, but if you use a longer macaroni, the recipe says to chop them into smaller rings once cooked, before adding to the meat and onion. Then pour in the cheese. We're using grated mozzarella, although you could use parmesan or cheddar. And the cream. We're using single cream. Mix this all together well and season with some salt and pepper. Now pack this mixture into your pie. It should come almost to the top. The tin we're using is a 6-inch round cake tin. You could use a pie dish, although the recipe does say to use a cake tin, probably for the shape. After brushing the edges of the pastry with a little water, roll out the final third of your pastry. Place this on top, pressing the pastry firmly together around the rim to stick it down. Then trim the edges. We're going to save the scraps to decorate with. And just to seal it even tighter, we're crimping around the edges with a fork. Cut a small cross in the middle of the top to let the steam escape. And although it's not part of the instructions, we're also going to give the pie a brush over with egg just to make the top nice and golden. Finally, after rolling out our scraps and cutting them into shapes, we're going to decorate the top of our pie just to give it a little something extra. This goes into a hot oven set at 190 degrees Celsius, which is 340 Fahrenheit or gas mark 5, for 30 to 40 minutes. Once it's ready, allow your pie to cool down for about 1 hour when it should still be quite warm. As we waited, we made the sauce to serve it with. Then slide it out of the tin. And there it is, Roman pie. To serve up, put it onto a plate and garnish with fresh parsley. And here's a pie that's been long forgotten, hidden away in old cookbooks like ours for nearly 80 years, and it's ready for a comeback. We think it would have made a very impressive centrepiece for a street party table or at a picnic. Full of lovely subtle flavours, the rabbit, cheese and macaroni go so well together. The recipe says to serve the whole pie hot with the 1940s tomato sauce around it. Now we couldn't eat the whole thing in one go, so we served each slice with the sauce, which we can confirm was delicious and worked so well with the flavours in the pie. And this pie is good served cold as well, so if you have any left over, keep it in your fridge. You can enjoy a slice for lunch the next day. We hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please leave us a like, and if you'd like to see us recreate more antique recipes, be sure to subscribe to our channel. You can also find full instructions for this recipe and many more on our website linked in the description box below.